12 months from now? True or false? MDMA is legalized by Health Canada.
I think so. I mean,
Nothing like putting you on the spot.
Sure.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Traded Black podcast. I am your host, Shad Dales. Let's get into our podcast today as we talk psychedelics and Q4 earnings. The CEO of Numinus Wellness, Payton joins us. Happy holidays. I know it's kind of early here in December, but good to see you. How are things?
Things are well. How are you?
Good. Got some sun.
Sun?
Down south somewhere.
I did a strange thing called taking a quick little vacation with the family. So yeah, it's the
nice.
snow's flying in Vancouver, so needed to get a little sunshine before hunkering down for winter.
Yeah, so it is true. CEOs once in a while do take vacations, but very rarely to say the least. But good to get some time away, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's dive deep into this. Earlier this week, you announced Q4 earnings and year-end financial results. Financial comps included the consolidation of Novamind in June. Headline revenue and margins did provide good optics for the company. So as we bring this all together, what would you say, if you're an investor, should be the big takeaway from the latest earnings report?
Yeah, I think obviously, the growth numbers are quite significant. It's the first time we've reported on the fully consolidated company now. Shows a clear path to profitability. Far and away the kind of strongest revenue numbers that we've seen within the psychedelic space. And I think, again, just gives people a very clear picture of what we're building and how we're moving forward. I think as we go into the new year, we've demonstrated that we've created an extremely strong foundation that knows how to operate within the mental health care space, that's built something that's sustainable, that now can be replicated and scaled at, next year is really kind of prime time, right? You've got MDMA most likely being approved towards the end of next year. You've got all the regulatory changes happening at the state level. So it's I think really for us, we've positioned ourselves as, again, where we've always wanted to be, is that service provider of choice for any psychedelic drug developer that is going to need a therapeutic container in order to offer their products. We'll really be able to highlight that in the new year, and especially towards the end of the year when MDMA becomes available.
2023, so it's going to be put up or shut up, so to speak, for a lot of fronts on this industry, correct?
I think so. I think it's that, and I think you've seen the kind of ketamine model really kind of get figured out, call it. You saw last year and the year before lots of different kind of, whether it was the fly-by-night stuff, the virtual ketamine therapy stuff. I think we've seen best practices kind of rise to the top now, and obviously we think ourselves in that category. And then again, going into next year with MDMA really being the focus.
Yeah, big year to say the least. It's anxious to see how that develops as the year progresses. For viewers that are watching this, and I know there a lot of our viewers within our YouTube channel and our site are very familiar with our stories and content we've produced over the past 6 months to a year with you. But for those institutional buyers or retail investors, when you're sitting down with them and it's your pathway to revenue, what's the communication or message that you basically demonstrate that gives them an understanding of what your pathway to revenue is?
Yeah, I think the kind of smart money, call it, at the moment is really looking at how do you make money in this space, who are going to be the ones that again, I always hate to use the word take advantage of, but knowing that mental health and the mental health crisis that we're in is really a big opportunity for disruption and innovation. Who are the companies that took the capital that was raised the last couple of years when things were really good and have put together business models that are going to be here to really take advantage of that. And I think as we look at revenue, as we look at all of these different drugs, I think for us, the huge opportunity is we're generating revenue now. We've shown a path to profitability, and we've shown metrics of, an invested dollar on a scale basis gets this amount of opportunity in regards to revenue through services. And I think that for us, as we look at the new year, it's easy for us to kind of paint that picture of, as we look to build out to, call it 100 clinics. There's numbers there that make a lot of sense, that are grounded in reality. They're not, your kind of tech industry graph with some fudge numbers. We've been there, done it. We're operating. These are based off of real world stats and real world results. And now for the next year, it's, bringing on more and more opportunities to just grow that platform and be able to create something that's sustaining, that actually shows a path to not having to raise capital, where, the only other kind of
Right.
opportunity, obviously, in the psychedelic space is drug development, which is a lot of capital with, I think it's become maybe less and less clear on where the financial opportunity there is going to be. If we continue to see states go to just you look at what Colorado has recently done. If
I know. Isn't that huge?
It's huge, and they're, not waiting for drug developers. They're just putting in a framework for psilocybin assisted therapy, and not only psilocybin assisted therapy, but assuming that goes well, in the year after the year that psilocybin goes live in Colorado, they're going to open it up to other psychedelic compounds. And so, what that continues to point to is, if you're a service provider, that's where the opportunity is.
Future Colorado always seems like they're trying new things and passing stuff, but good for them. It's great to see. But this is great as far as the growth of the industry, to say the least. But you're right. It's about what companies do not need to raise capital, especially in these market conditions. But then more importantly, too, because I do see companies with capital in this space that don't really have a true understanding of what their pathway to revenue is or what their model is.
Yeah.
This is where I'm starting to really ask the questions and understand, for my audience to understand, what is the pathway to revenue. So when we dive into this, you reported more than 17,000 client appointments, which represented a 202% increase due to consolidation of your Novamind acquisition, which was back in June. So as we look further, there was 12.5% of these appointments were made by new clients, which, if I'm correct, suggests a large pool of prospective patients in Utah. Would you say that's a fair assessment?
100%. And I think with that, we've I think Utah, we've demonstrated the kind of model and strategy that we think is effective around, really focusing on a state, building good distribution and penetration within a state, and then going to the next state. And I think Utah now is off and running. We continue to see more clients coming. We continue to see margins improve, revenue increase. And I think we've now got a model that, again, we can go and replicate into other states. So we've started to do that in Arizona, and we're now looking at other states. We mentioned Colorado. There's a couple other states that we're very interested in, where we'll look to expand into and just take what we've built and being able to apply that in other states.
We haven't talked a lot about Arizona, but what's, I guess, the runway and demand within that state? We've heard a lot about Utah, but what does Arizona present? I assume it's pretty much the healthcare systems everywhere are overwhelmed, I would think.
They are. It's a very comparable kind of market. They've got a large veteran community in Arizona. That they're quite well aware of psychedelic work in Arizona, so we're seeing that. I think there's lots of opportunity there. Obviously, it's from a seasonality perspective, a little less seasonality than some of the other states, which might sound like a non-event, but it definitely is in regards to mental health. There's definitely seasonality depending on where you are, and Arizona just has a lot of opportunity. It's always sunny in Arizona, so you don't run into some of the seasonality issues that we run into actually in Canada. But but yeah, the opportunity in Arizona is great. I think there's again a couple other states now that we're looking to move into, and we've done a lot of work to figure that out. We've been running, as people have probably seen, we've been running a number of events in a number of states, primarily on the West Coast, just getting the brand out there. We've run a lot of market statistics, and we now
Yep.
get we get about of all of the psychedelic companies, we get about 50% of the market share of people looking at brands within the psychedelic space. So we built a brand that people know, trust, we get great engagement with, and so now looking to leverage that as we look to expand our footprint in the United States.
That's good. Another point that grabbed my attention was the revenue attained from Cedar Clinic Research, which for all my viewers became your research arm and performs much like a contract research organization in the pharmaceutical space. So, can you maybe elaborate to my viewers on what I mean by that?
Yeah, I think one of the things that maybe gets overlooked a little bit, and it's a huge opportunity for us, but as we talked about with all of these different drug developers, um, the psychedelic space or the use of psychedelic drugs within therapy is something that's new and quite nuanced, where you are combining therapy with the application of a medication. And with that, you need really good trained practitioners. You need a back end system that knows how to run clients seamlessly through the protocol, including preparation, education, integration support on the other side. And so it's really kind of twofold. It's a way that we generate revenue, and it's got a great financial model attached to it, but also it gets us operating with these different compounds in clinic right now. So, we have an LSD trial that, we're doing with MindMed, where we've already started to carry out
Right.
the LSD
Right.
work in our clinical locations, the MAPS work. We've been working with MDMA for a number of years now in our clinical locations,
Yep.
psilocybin as well. So it gets us an opportunity to just get very comfortable and familiar with these drugs and how they're going to work within a real world environment kind of before approval happens. And why that's a huge opportunity is that all of these different companies are going to be looking for distribution partners once their drugs are approved.
Right.
And so, we kind of
Right.
become the distribution partner of choice for all of these different companies that are looking to get drugs approved, but want to ensure the kind of outcomes that they're seeing in the research.
So, what exactly do you think is the scope of opportunity when you outline all that based on distribution?
We've always looked at ourselves as we don't want to be a ketamine clinic provider. We don't want to be just MDMA. We don't want to be just psilocybin. We think that there's this much broader opportunity to be a mental health service provider who can leverage our expertise in psychedelics to use all of these different drugs. And, I think, MAPS, obviously, because they've got the most amount of data, is the easiest one to point to. But if you look at their projections, they're very significant, and that's just on the sale of MDMA, the drug itself. MDMA is not extremely expensive, but the therapy is where there's a large amount of the kind of financial investment that people are making. That's where you see a
Yeah.
lot of that money going, and so for us, I think to be able to create a model that is able to take a client and then not only do all of just the traditional mental health support that these people need, but also be able to channel them into whatever it is, whether it's someone who's looking for ketamine for depression or MDMA for PTSD or psilocybin for treatment resistant depression. What we're able to work with all of these different compounds. And again, at a time where if I'm a drug distributor or drug developer, I want to ensure, especially in the early goings, the best possible outcomes for clients, because that's what engages insurance providers. That's what, helps
Right.
market their product. And we're the ones who've been working with it the most. And so it just is a really great position for us to be in going into
Yeah.
2023.
Yeah. I think when I look at this industry, for anyone new, it can be a little overwhelming to understand. But if you can start to simplify the story and really understand what the start and end point is, then it's that aha moment where people start to really see what companies are putting together the proper plan in place. Saying that, I'm really starting to really understand what your story is. And I know there's a lot of people that feel the same way in the investor community related to this industry itself. What do you think? And I don't want to like tell people that this company is better than that company, but in your own words, what do you think you're doing, I guess, better at building out this storyline versus other companies in the industry?
Yeah, I think what we've done, we have a lot of expertise in the psychedelic space. A lot of the people who work with us have been involved with the research for a very long time, and we've taken the approach of more, how do we create a sustainable model that is generating revenue from mental health services? There's a huge unmet need just in regards to traditional mental health services, and how do we take a look at the bigger picture in regards to capturing this huge opportunity in mental health, as opposed to trying to
Right.
capture. And I think this came a lot from a couple of years ago, where there was a lot of interest in psychedelics, where people were maybe taking too much of a narrow focus of, I'm going to own this drug that is going to deal with this one indication. And now, we're seeing limited opportunities in regards to IP. And frankly, you're missing the bigger opportunity of this huge paradigm shift that's happening in regards to mental health. We're seeing, just a massive, massive
Yep.
change. And that's where, I think we've done a very good job, is put together a model that can make a huge difference in regards to mental health. And with that, being able to leverage all of these different products as they become available, and not kind of cornering ourselves into, one particular product that may or may not have any kind of protection associated with it, I guess, from a fundraising standpoint. And I think that's what we've done a very good job of. And I think we've continued to stay just really, really focused. We didn't go chasing shiny balls. We
Yeah.
knew when we started the company almost 5 years ago now, we had a very clear path in regards to what we wanted to do, and we've stayed focused to that, and I think it's paid off.
Yeah. Well, when you don't focus on one specific compound, but I do want to bring up one. True or false, if we're having this conversation today, 12 months from now, true or false, MDMA is legalized by Health Canada?
I think so. I mean,
Nothing like putting you on the spot.
sure. I mean, that's what MAPS has indicated, and not just Health Canada, but the FDA. So MAPS, from, again, this is me speaking on behalf of MAPS. But MAPS has indicated that they'll be reporting their phase 3B clinical trial results in Q1 of next year, which will be the last results that they need to post. And then they're looking to have that drug submitted for approval in Q3 of next year, which the submission process is usually about 60 days.
Right.
And that's 60 days for the DEA to reschedule, for the FDA to approve, to get a DIN number for the drug. So I think this time next year, we should see MDMA be approved. MAPS has said that they expect to be reporting their first, I believe, don't quote me, I believe they say Q1 of 2024 is when they expect to report their first revenue from the sale of MDMA, which obviously they need a full quarter in order to do that. So that would put us this time next year.
So you have a partnership with them, or a research partnership. When that day comes, and I know we've talked about in this past, let's like recap what I mean by this. When they legalize MDMA, you have a partnership with MDA, which is basically going to help with your distribution platform, because a lot of these companies are going to have to basically go through you. Do you care to like elaborate on that, how that works when that day comes, and what other companies in this space will have to do by coming through you to, like I said, enhance your distribution platform, and more importantly, your pathway to profitability?
Yeah, so a couple of things on the MAPS front. So MAPS is very clearly said in order to be able to distribute MDMA, the drug, you have to have the MAPS training. That's step one. We've been working to get a huge amount of our practitioners trained under the MAPS protocol. And we've already been working with it in clinic. As I mentioned, we've been doing the MAPS USX work. So we've started to carry that out. And for us, again, there's really no other clinical provider at the moment who's actually been working with MDMA in clinic, obviously within a research context, but we've real worlded as much as anybody has. Um, the other side of that too is from MAP's perspective, again, as I kind of touched on, they need to ensure best outcomes. You always need to ensure best outcomes for clients, but in the early goings, as they're building up a reputation and a market for MDMA, the drug, they've got to make sure that they're keeping that consistency that they saw within the research contest. They have to keep that consistency once it's in market. And the best way to do that is keep, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And we're very, very familiar with that protocol, with the training, with the distribution of the drug. And also the other side of that is all of the necessary infrastructure that you're going to need in regards to education, preparation, a back-end EMR system that knows how to
Yeah.
work with insurance providers. It's really, really not as easy as, okay, MDMA is approved, now we sell MDMA. That's not how the healthcare system
Yeah.
works. You've got to have referral partners. You've got to have the EMR system set up. You've got to have screening, preparation, engagement with insurance providers. There's a lot that goes into it in order to really have it be seamless day one. And I think there's going to be a lot of people kind of scrambling to try and put that together. Whereas, when it's time, we'll be very much ready to go.
Okay. So end of 2023, we could see MDMA legalized. When we look at the North American market alone, how many people do you think this is going to help out that are battling with mental health?
I think I Again, if you look at the MAPS financials, which projections which they've put out, they see like $1 billion plus annual from just the sale of MDMA, the drug. That's just the drug product
And
itself.
do you think that happens in the first year?
I think it'll take a couple years to kind of ramp up. But again, for us, that's we're excited about that because
Yeah.
there's an opportunity to really kind of set ourselves apart. And I think we've already done that in regards to the psychedelic space as a service provider. Our financials demonstrate that. But also, I think our reputation demonstrates that as well. And I think there's just a very big
Yeah.
opportunity for us to get very well out in front as an MDMA service provider. And I think the opportunity there also is, you've not seen innovation in the mental health space in 40 plus years. Practitioners, mental health
Long
service
time.
providers are extremely excited about having a new tool that they can start offering to their clients. And for us to
Yeah.
to really establish ourselves as, not only the service provider of choice, but the place where people can go to get the most robust training in an organization that is the most comfortable with this new product. I think the biggest bottleneck we're going to see in this space is the training of practitioners, and we position ourselves really as the opportunity for practitioners to work with an organization who's most comfortable and using this new product when it's ready for market.
You know what I learned this week is that if you have a cough or any kind of virus, a lot of doctors are not even seeing you in person and just pushing you off to hospitals right now. So you can understand this whole healthcare system is collapsing in front of us. So when you add in all this stress and angst, it's like keep producing the data, get the proper training in place. like even Canada, what was the news that came out where by, is it March 2022 that they're actually going to legalize, what I don't want to say the wrong thing, but the term, but it's assisted death, if I'm
Yeah.
correct.
Assisted suicide.
Did you hear that by chance?
Yeah. I mean, that's like, I
So
think that that speaks to just the huge issue we have in regards to mental health, where we're now in Canada approving people to do assisted
100%.
suicide for mental health before, we have now very, very good evidence and very good data for a number of psychedelic compounds that if I'm someone who's it, the last thing we should be doing is um, you know having people to choose whether they should take their own lives or not. They should have every opportunity possible to use
I
every
know.
single
Yeah.
modality to save their lives. And what we've seen with psychedelics, and
Yeah.
you can go online, and the amount of anecdotal reports of people's lives being, and even speaking personally, saved my life, no question. And I think the amount of people that we
Yeah.
continue to hear, see, and say that, um, it's so necessary. And I think Health Canada and the US, frankly, but just talking about Canada for a minute, you look at the amount of changes that Canada's made in a very short period of time, whether it's the SAP, the changes that are being implemented in Alberta now, January 1st. They'll have a legal framework
Mm-hmm.
for a number
Mm-hmm.
of psychedelic compounds. I think, again, I think 2023 is just a huge pendulum shift, and we've been saying this for a while now, uh, in regards to regulation changes and support.
Yeah, I think if one could read between the lines based on the assisted death, clear example as to how the healthcare system is just completely overwhelmed right now. But um, it's hopefully things move quicker, obviously, with what you're focusing and researching on, and we continue to see promising data because it'd be great to have solutions versus people having to come up with those choices, whether it's continue to live on feeling the way they're feeling or assisted death, which is crazy times to say the least. One last thing I wanted to bring up. From a business standpoint, what do you need, I guess, to focus on most when it comes to profitability here in 2023 for investors that would like to know?
Yeah, I think for us, the things that we've already been doing is really adjusting the model. The financials that we reported. We've done a lot of work since then to just bring down burn rate significantly, just bring up efficiencies, uh, focus on higher margin services in clinic. Lower margin services can be done virtually, which we've seen a huge amount of growth in. And then how do we scale this exponentially? And I think we've got enough of a foundation and a model there now to be able to do that with still having a significant amount of capital on hand. We've got about a 2-year burn rate or a run rate still with the cash that we've got, and that's not including MDMA or any of the efficiencies that we're starting to implement now. So I think the company is in a spectacular position going into the new year, and we're really excited about how many people that we're going to be able to help.
Well, appreciate the update. Obviously, great growth trajectory that you have planned in the next year or so. Good to understand, too, the pathway to profitability. And more importantly, just great to catch up and keep up the great work.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for watching. So what'd you think of the interview? If there's any information that you want to know more of or want to learn about, then provide us with feedback by leaving a comment below. And if you like what we're producing, then feel free to subscribe to our channel, share this video with your network, and as well, click on that bell for all notifications because we would not be here without you. We appreciate it. Thanks for watching, everyone.